Hey guys, welcome to the Ramsey Paul Show. As always, if you like what you see here, please like and subscribe. Trying to grow the channel. And it is Thursday, October 30th. It's a beautiful day here in the Ozarks. It is great to be with you guys. A lot of stuff to cover. I guess one of the big news was Trump has just got back to the United States from his trip to South Korea. He met with President Xi, the head of China, and it was different accounts from the American point of view versus the official Chinese media. To me, it looked like the Chinese were very icy. It wasn't exactly a warm reception. But Trump, being Trump, he always likes to exaggerate things. I think he said on a scale of 1 to 10, it was a 12. It was a great meeting. We got a whole framework of deals and this and that. And not really. What really happened is basically they decided to kick the can down the road for another 12 months. And so during the next 12 months, what happens is a lot of the tariffs that Trump put on, he's rolled those back. Remember, like China, if you buy oil from Russia, we're going to hit you with 130% tariff. Yeah, that's all gone. That's all gone because China, they had a rare earths card. And I've mentioned this a lot. China has a lot of rare earths. We in the United States have it too in other countries. But to refine the rare earths, it requires a specialized process and it takes time to bring up that ability, that capability in your country. We used to have it in the United States, but thanks to the free traders, it was like, oh, we can just ship this off to China. It's a lot cheaper in China, and we can have them refine the rare earth minerals that are very key to defense, modern aircraft carriers, aircraft, missiles. You need the rare earth components. And we're like, well, we'll just send it to China because they can make it cheaper, right? That's good capitalism, free trade, libertarianism. And now, though, it's like, they're threatening to withhold those. And if we don't have the rare earths, we can't have all these wars for Israel and, Ukraine and everything else. So it put the fear of God into the United States. So Trump has rolled back most of the tariffs. He's kind of bitched out about putting huge tariffs on China because of Russia, because he was demanding that Russia not be able to sell oil to India or China. And both India and China basically said, yeah, fuck you. Really, fuck you. You can't tell us who we can buy oil from. And, so Trump, he didn't go through with this threat. He backed out. And there's not a trade agreement in per se. They did discuss a few things. I think soybeans, we're going to send more to China. And China has agreed, at least for the next year, to continue to supply us with rare earths. But it's kind of a probation period. If we violate the terms of the deal, China will just stop giving us rare earths. So we have a year. There's not a full trade agreement, but this is where we are right now. And I noticed the markets and crypto, it has really tanked. So I don't think the market is really excited about this like Trump thought. So that's where we are right now on China. And let's see here, the China deal. All right, a couple of other things. I want to go over a little bit of the future of the GOP and conservatism. And one guy I really like is JD Vance. And I know JD Vance used to be a neocon years ago, but people change. I've talked about that often. And we got to accept people where they are now. We want people to come over to our side, and we shouldn't hold it against them because years ago, JD Vance was tied up with Peter Thiel and the neocons or whatever, but that's not the case anymore. And he was at Old Mississippi, I believe, Old Miss, and he actually spoke to the student body and he took questions and answers, which is very unusual because usually everything's real scripted. But JD Vance was willing to put himself out there and answer questions. So let's take a look at some of these here. And let me just turn up the volume here, make sure it's up high enough for everyone to hear. All right, let's listen to this.
That hurt hurt us. And these policies are not even solving the problems. These policies are just creating chaos.
No, ma'am. Okay, so again, I'm gonna finish answering the question, and then if I've answered all 9 of your questions in less than 15 minutes, then we can keep on going. We got to have a little fun, right? So here's the thing. I can believe that the United States should lower its levels of immigration in the future, while also respecting that there are people who have come here through lawful immigration pathways that have contributed to the country. But just because one person or 10 people or 100 people came in legally and contributed to the United States of America, does that mean that we're thereby committed to let in 1 million or 10 million or 100 million people a year in the future? No, that's not right. We cannot have, I'll go and finish. We cannot have an immigration policy where what was good for the country 50 or 60 years ago binds the country inevitably for the future. There's too many people who want to come to the United States of America, and my job as vice president is not to look out for the interests of the whole world. It's to look out for the people of the United States.
That hit. You notice how it's a spontaneous applause. It wasn't forced. It wasn't some audience saying, hey, you have to cheer now. And these are young people, presumably mostly Republicans. And JD Vance was telling this, I don't know, is she Indian, this girl, that, hey, just because we've taken in certain people in the past does not bind us that we have to perpetually take in millions of people. And I'm so happy that JD Vance was able to say that his job is to look after the interest of the people of the United States, not to be looking out for every other country. And that definitely is American first. And I thought he handled that very well. And here's another interesting question that came up. Let me just bring this up here. And this is the same at Ole Miss question and answer period. And let's take a look at this here.
And yes, my wife did not grow up Christian. I think it's fair to say that she grew up in a Hindu family, but not a particularly religious family in either direction. In fact, when I met my wife, we were both, I would consider myself an agnostic or an atheist, and that's what I think she would have considered herself as well. You know, everybody has to come to their own arrangement here. The way that we've come to our arrangement is she's my best friend. We talk to each other about this stuff. So we decided to raise our kids Christian.
So this is good. So this is a question if his children should be raised Christian or Hindu. And he said Christian, and this is actually biblical. He should be the head of the household, and they should be raised Christian.
Our 2 oldest kids who go to school, they go to a Christian school. Our 8-year-old did his first communion about a year ago. That's the way that we have come to our arrangement. But thank you. My 8-year-old was also very proud of his first communion. Thank you, guys. I'll tell him that Ole Miss wishes him the best. But I think everybody has to have this own conversation when you're in a marriage. I mean, it's true for friends of mine who are in Protestant and Catholic marriages, friends of mine who are in, atheist and Christian marriages. You just got to talk to the only advice I can give is you just got to talk to the person that God has put you with, and you've got to make those decisions as a family unit. For us, it works out. Now, most Sundays, Usha will come with me to church. As I've told her, and I've said publicly, and I'll say now in front of 10,000 of my closest friends, do I hope eventually that she is somehow moved by the same thing that I was moved in by church? Yeah, I honestly do wish that, because I believe in the Christian gospel, and I hope eventually my wife comes to see it the same way.
So this is very powerful that he would say this. He's not cucking to his wife. And the Bible, the scripture says you shouldn't be unequally yoked, meaning if you're a Christian, you shouldn't marry a non-Christian. It's going to cause problems. But at the time, he wasn't a Christian. He was an agnostic, and he's moved in his faith, which is understandable. And so the proper response isn't for him to dump his wife, but to take leadership of the household, which he sounds like he has. So I think this is a good answer.
But if she doesn't, then God says everybody has free will, and so that doesn't cause a problem for me. That's something you work out with your friends, with your family, with the person that you love. Again, one of the most important Christian principles is that you respect free will. Usha's closer to the priests who baptized me than maybe I am. They talk about this stuff. My attitude is you figure this stuff out as a family, and you trust in God to have a plan, and you try to follow it as best as you can. And that's what I try to do. And yes, my wife did not.
So that was a really articulate response for JD Vance. I was really impressed with that. And let's see here, some more of this stuff. And the crowd really, really loved JD Vance. They started to chant. What did they chant? Oh, yeah, they're chanting 48, 48 when he finished his speech, and that means the 48th president. I don't know if JD Vance will have the nomination in a couple of years for the Republicans. I hope so. Probably depends how the Trump administration goes, but I think this is I think this is a good sign. It's a good sign. I would like to see him be the nominee. I think he's really good. All right, let's listen to some more JD Vance. This is kind of a JD Vance theme. I thought JD Vance had a lot of interesting things to say. He's one of the few politicians can actually discuss these issues on the fly without a teleprompter. And so I admire him for that. So let's listen to him on here.
Hello, Mr. Vice President. Thank you so much for giving this opportunity to talk here
All right, this is a little bit more of this lady.
today. I did not agree with many of the things that you said right ahead of this, but I don't think that's my point to discuss here. What I want to ask is,
Okay.
you are married to a woman who is not Christian.
So he's already
3
answered this.
kids.
I'm not going to go this. Sorry about that. I guess that's a repeat. It goes more in depth, but he gets more into the whole immigration that we don't have to bring in the entire world. And I think that is a good part he made here. All right. JD Vance talking more about Christianity. And that's the thing. I don't understand why some people like Fuentes and a lot of the Groypers don't like JD Vance. Who else can speak on Christianity in such a way? Trump won't. I don't know anyone else that will. And you could say years ago, JD Vance wasn't a Christian. But he's saying things now I think make a lot of sense. And that's how we have to look at it. All right, let's see here. Some more of what he has to say here. It's question and answer.
Christian values out there that I think that we've just sort of assumed and we've in fact taken for granted. Christian values are the idea that you should respect every single person as an individual, whatever the color of their skin, created in the image of God. That's a Christian concept.
You notice he's not saying Judeo-Christian either, like a lot of the politicians. I guarantee you, Ted Cruz would say Judeo-Christian. So would Tom Cotton. So good for JD Vance.
And in fact, it was a Christian empire, Great Britain, that abolished slavery to begin with. The idea that we should eliminate child sacrifice. What did the Christian settlers find when they came to the New World? They found a lot of civilizations that were murdering babies in weird religious rituals. It was Christianity that said we don't kill children just because they're somehow inconvenient to people. A lot of the things, human rights, the very idea that human beings have rights are a Christian concept. And so I'd ask you, my assumption based on the question is that you're skeptical of Christianity, or at least of certain public professions of Christianity. One of my favorite Bible verses is, "By your fruits ye shall know them." And I think that the fruits of the Christian faith are the most moral, the most just, and the most prosperous civilization in history. I make no apologies for believing that Christianity is the pathway to God. I make no apologies for thinking that Christian values are an important foundation of this country, but I'm not going to force you to believe in anything, because that's not what God wants, and that's not what I want either.
So that's a pretty powerful statement. He may come into controversy with certain groups with that. That was interesting on that. So I think everything he says there is pretty strong. I think there's a lot of Jewish groups that may push back on JD Vance on that. So we'll have to see if he gets the nomination. And then here he talks a little bit about another issue that people bring up about JD Vance.
Hello, Vice President Vance.
How you doing?
Good. I have a question. Do you condone large private corporations such as Palantir hoarding data caches on U.S. citizens?
And this is a comment I had. This was a comment I had in my comments. Someone said, "Oh, JD Vance, he supports all this gathering data by these large corporations. He's corrupt." Let's listen to how JD Vance responds.
No, I don't condone it. And here's the thing. So I get asked about Palantir a lot because there's this internet meme out there that somehow I am super in bed with Palantir. And here's the thing that I'd say about this. Palantir is a private company. They sometimes do a useful service, and sometimes they're going to do things that we don't like. You should be demanding that your representatives do two things when it comes to Palantir or when it comes to any other technology company. Number one, protecting your data. What's going on with artificial intelligence is going to mean that there are massive inducements to steal your data, to harvest it, and to use it against you to sell digital advertisements. That is not what I believe in, and I've been fighting against it, whether it's Palantir or any other technology company, literally before I ran for office. When I ran for office, I was criticized by Republicans in my Republican Senate primary because I was talking then about Google and Facebook harvesting our data. It's unacceptable. I don't care who does it. I don't want them to do it. Number two, and this is also very important, what's going on with artificial intelligence, we got to be worried about large-scale surveillance, okay? Everything, when you asked about Palantir, do you know that every time you make a credit card transaction, the credit card companies are collecting data on how you spend your money? Do you know that every time you linger over a link on the internet for more than a half second, the search engines are collecting data on you so that they can sell you advertisements? One of the biggest questions for American policy over the next 10 years is how to ensure that you are a sovereign citizen. And you cannot be a sovereign citizen if any private corporation or any government can steal something from you that belongs to you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Wow, this reminds me a lot of what my old co-host, the late great Z-Man, he used to always say this, that they don't have a right to steal from you in this way. And JD Vance is echoing really a lot of what Z-Man used to say about that. So again, another strong reply from JD Vance. I like what JD Vance is doing. I like how he can talk to the group of college students. I don't think Trump could do this in this depth. Part of it is because JD Vance is very young. He's of a different generation. And he seems really more on our side than any other politician I know. He's definitely a Christian. He supports the Christian faith. He's not into all this woke bullshit. And I haven't seen him, begging Israel anymore. I know years ago he had to kiss the wall, but the last time he went to Israel, he didn't bother to kiss the wall. He went to a Christian church, and he came under a lot of criticism for that. So I think JD Vance has, there's a lot of possibility there. And I do think he is the future of the GOP. So that was interesting, what he had to say there. And getting to immigration, and we'll show you. This is the why we can't have the immigration like we've had. I don't care if it's legal or illegal. It doesn't really matter to me. This is a mayor of Minneapolis, and I'm going to turn down the volume, but he's waving the Somali flag, and he's speaking in, let me see if I can hear this.
Assalamu alaikum. Somalia, Hiran State, Mawisle.
The guy looks
November 4th.
The guy looks inbred, doesn't he, to you? His eyes just look wrong. He probably is inbred, but this is a problem. This was never envisioned by the founding fathers, to have people that are hostile to everything we stand for in our country. And what happened? The people in Minnesota didn't vote for it. They didn't vote for, hey, what we need is a bunch of African Muslims in Minneapolis. That was not, no one decided this would be a good idea. This was forced on their city by people that hate white people. They want, because Minnesota used to be a very white state, and they intentionally wanted to disrupt it. And we've seen that, during the election, they dumped a lot of Haitians in Ohio. They're not really compatible with the United States. They like the United States because their people cannot create an advanced civilization, and they like the material prosperity our people can create, but at the same time, they hate our people. There's a lot of envy, and they don't consider themselves us. They're Somalis, and they should be in Somalia. And I don't care if he's here legally or illegally, he needs to be deported. And that is, I think more and more people are starting to understand that. All right, let's see here. The other big story here is a huge spy scandal that happened. It was called Arctic Frost. This is under the Biden administration, where Biden was using the secret police and the FBI for political purposes. New Arctic Frost whistleblower documents show that the corrupt Biden FBI subpoenaed the bank records, donor list, and emails of nearly every major conservative organization and leader in the country, including Donald Trump's campaign, the RNC, the Conservative Partnership Institute, even My Pillow, and Charlie Kirk. They investigated. So if you were on the right, I'm sure they investigated me. I'm sure they have a file of me. They were acting like Soviet commissars to make sure that you were in line to try to intimidate you. This is not the purpose of the FBI, and the FBI agents that engaged in this should be fired and lose their pensions. And this is really crazy what happened. And we got some more commentary on this. Here's Eric Schmidt on this.
About how Judge Boasberg gave a speech about how he was going to thwart the Trump agenda before he got those cases. He was not the assignment judge. The DC courts have a daily assignment judge. He wasn't the assignment judge. He's on vacation. Somehow gets these cases at 1 a.m. Was he tipped off? Did somebody tell him these cases against President Trump and his agenda now were coming? I don't know. We should find that out. But Judge Boasberg, what he did to Senator Cruz and maybe other senators, absolutely, and I don't say this lightly, absolutely is worthy of impeachment proceedings. There has to be accountability. The American people have heard a lot about this, and you're going to hear more. We should have Watergate-style hearings on this for months. If we're ever going to root this out, we have to be serious about it, and consequences have to follow. Resignations, firings, criminal prosecutions. You simply can't, in this country, use the justice system to throw people in jail because they have a red jersey on or a blue jersey on.
And that's what happened. And we saw that in the case. In some cases, the Department of Justice, Letitia James, she went after VDARE, for example. They did nothing wrong. They just used lawfare because they didn't like the politics of VDARE. And it is horrific. It really is horrific what happened there. And Josh Hawley has a clip about this. Let's just take a look at this. About what happened. This Arctic Frost was the code name of this illegal project that the Biden administration, I don't know if Biden knew because he's senile, but this is what the Democrats were doing.
The revelations since you came on are actually jaw-dropping. They get worse every day. Where in the hell are we going on this thing, sir?
Well, we need a full-scale investigation, Steve. I continue to believe we need a special prosecutor who is 100% dedicated to figuring out what in the world the Biden DOJ and FBI were doing. The more we learn, the worse it gets. 92 conservative organizations targeted. Now we know that they went after even more phone records. They tapped my phone. They tapped the phones of 7 other senators. Looks like they also now went after conservative organizations like the Republican Attorneys General. I mean, it was a dragnet. It was a massive witch hunt, all with the goal of trying to get Donald Trump, number one, and number two, trying to decapitate the Republican Party and the conservative movement. They went after Charlie Kirk, of course, as well, and TPUSA. So we've got to get to the bottom of this. We do need hearings. We need congressional hearings. People need to be issued subpoenas. And Steve, this all needs to be done in public. The American people need to see the truth here. I'm tired of this behind closed door stuff. We just had another closed door briefing yesterday. Fine. This needs to be done in public. The American people deserve to know.
You know, Andrew Bailey, another great one from Missouri, is now helping Cash over at FBI. But we're strapped with manpower. Is your call like the war rooms to say, look, you got so much going on in Main Justice, you got so much going on in the FBI. We need a special prosecutor that just focuses on this. Is that getting any real traction?
Boy, I hope so. I mean, I continue to beat the drum on that, and you put it exactly right. I mean, we need somebody who is 100% dedicated to this and has a team of prosecutors, I emphasize prosecutors, dedicated to this. Until we get some accountability, I don't have any confidence that this won't happen again. Heck, I don't have any confidence it's not happening right now. Not because I don't trust Cash, but because I do not trust the deep state. And, you know, the FBI is a big place. DOJ is a big place. We saw this in Trump term #1. These people burrow in there. They do all kinds of nefarious stuff, and it takes us years to uncover it. We right now have control. The American people deserve full and total transparency, and we ought to give it to them.
Yeah, he's right on this. We need to figure out who did this, but there needs to be accountability. People need to be fired or go to jail for this. Otherwise, this is going to continue on. So, yeah, this is not going to be over. All right, we'll finish up with some hoaxes that are starting to go away. It's kind of interesting. And it's happened pretty quick. And one is the whole trans thing. The trans bubble has popped. And it's actually now in the Wall Street Journal opinion. Evidence backs the transgender social contagion hypothesis. And because for the longest time, people that thought they were born in the wrong body, very, very small percentage. I mean, it probably happened throughout history, but extremely rare. And then all of a sudden it became extremely popular. And what happened? Did everyone, does biology change? No, it was a fad, basically. And now people are realizing this is ridiculous. A man can't become a woman. What were we thinking? And so it's no longer popular, but it's really sad because a lot of women, and it's mostly women that push this on their little children in order to get social validation like Facebook likes, they ended up sexually mutilating their children for life. Really sad situation. The doctors that did this need to be held accountable, and we got to make sure something like this never happens again. But it looks like that is going the way of the wayside. People aren't into that anymore. And we also got some good news. This is just the start, but we're seeing a little bit of nature is healing. And the whole idea of gay marriage, which is a ridiculous concept, but the U.S. support for same-sex marriage falls to 55%. I mean, it's shocking it's that high that they've been able to push that propaganda, but it looks like there's starting to be a backlash to that. And hopefully we'll be able to get rid of that concept once and for all. So that is a good sign that's happening. And another hoax that people are starting to walk away from is the whole climate change. Yeah, that is no longer like a big thing anymore. Bill Gates, Microsoft, and every other tech company, they're big on trying to get power for their AI. And now Bill Gates is starting to walk back from, oh, climate change is going to kill everyone unless we act now. You know, it's always, even pre-COVID, climate change was, they were trying to do fear mongering that unless we do changes within like a year, 5 years, dramatic changes that allow the government control our whole lives, the whole world's going to end. All their predictions were always wrong. And it's just slowly they're walking away from that whole concept. So that looks to be a fad that is dying. Thank God for that. And good for Trump. He's pushed back on what he calls this green scam nonsense. It's really destroyed a lot of countries like Germany and so forth. But hopefully we'll be able to get away from that nonsense. So guys, thank you for watching today. And always be sure to like and subscribe. And I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.